On certain Pacific islands, artillery thundered for days, and yet the firing never seemed to stop. Bunkers survived. Tunnels reopened. Infantry advanced only to be pinned down again by enemies hidden beneath rock and earth. Then, a different kind of weapon rolled forward. Not just steel and cannon, but armor carrying fire itself. Its arrival changed how fortified defenses were attacked and how close combat was fought in some of the war's most brutal battles. But deploying it was not a simple decision, nor was it without risk. Behind every burst of flame stood mechanical danger, tactical debate, and a hard question about how far a military should go to break an enemy that refused to yield. Airfield Number 2, Iwo Jima. The bunkers that survived naval bombardment until flame tanks moved in. On February 19, 1945, United States Marines landed on Iwo Jima after one of the heaviest naval bombardments of the Pacific War. For 3 days before the invasion, battleships and cruisers pounded the island. Many believed little could survive that level of firepower. Yet, as the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions pushed inland toward Airfield Number 2, they discovered that the bombardment had not destroyed the core defenses. General Tadamichi Kuribayashi had ordered his troops to avoid defending the beaches. Instead, his engineers built deep bunkers and tunnel systems around key objectives, including Airfield Number 2. These positions were reinforced with concrete, steel doors, and volcanic rock. Firing ports were narrow and carefully angled. Even direct shell hits often damaged only the surface. On February 21st and 22nd, Marines advancing toward the airfield faced intense machine gun and mortar fire from positions that had appeared silent. After action reports from the 4th Marine Division described companies pinned down within sight of the runway. One battalion reported that several pillboxes continued firing even after being struck repeatedly by naval shells. When infantry attempted frontal assaults, they were met with overlapping fields of fire from concealed bunkers. The volcanic ash around the airfield slowed movement. Tanks struggled to gain traction. Riflemen sank into soft ground while under fire. Every yard forward required coordination between infantry and armor. Standard high-explosive shells from Sherman tanks blasted bunker entrances, but often the defenders inside survived. Minutes after an explosion, the same position would reopen fire through another aperture connected by tunnel. By February 24th, commanders recognized that Airfield Number 2 could not be cleared through repeated infantry assaults alone. Flamethrower tanks from the 5th Tank Battalion were brought forward to target specific strongpoints. These were modified M4 Sherman tanks equipped with Ronson flame systems developed by the Army Chemical Warfare Service under Colonel Unmacht. One documented engagement near the western edge of the airfield illustrates their impact. A reinforced bunker complex had stalled Marine advance for hours. Engineers, attempting to approach with demolition charges, were forced back by machine gun fire. A flame tank advanced under covering rifle fire and positioned itself within range of a narrow cave entrance. When the projector discharged flame into the opening, resistance from that position stopped almost immediately. Infantry moved in shortly after to secure and seal the entrance. Another incident occurred on February 26th near a cluster of pillboxes protecting the northern side of the runway. Marines had already suffered casualties attempting to silence the position with grenades and rifle fire. A flamethrower tank approached slowly across uneven ground while receiving sporadic mortar fire. Once in position, it delivered sustained bursts into 2 adjacent firing ports. Secondary explosions were reported, likely from ammunition stored inside. The bunker system that had resisted bombardment was neutralized within minutes. These engagements did not eliminate all danger. Japanese defenders often used alternate tunnel exits. In several cases, Marines reported enemy soldiers emerging from rear openings after a flame attack. This required engineers to conduct systematic demolition sweeps, sealing entrances permanently. Still, the introduction of flame tanks reduced the need for repeated frontal charges against reinforced concrete positions. By late February, as fighting intensified around Hill 362A north of Airfield Number 2, coordinated assaults became standard practice. Infantry would identify a bunker. Tanks would move forward under protection. flame would be applied directly into openings. Engineers followed to destroy the structure. After action summaries from the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions indicate that this method improved forward momentum compared to earlier days of the battle. Airfield No. 2 remained a contested area for days, but the role of flame tanks became clear. Positions that survived naval bombardment and artillery were vulnerable when fire entered their confined interiors. The combination of volcanic terrain, deep tunnels, and reinforced bunkers had created a battlefield where traditional shell fire often failed to finish the job. The fight for Airfield No. 2 shows why flamethrower tanks were adopted in organized numbers on Iwo Jima. The bunkers had survived some of the heaviest bombardment of the war. It was only when armored vehicles carrying flame moved into close range that many of these hardened positions were finally destroyed. Mount Suribachi Tunnels. How hidden Japanese positions were burned out after reopening fire. When United States Marines landed on Iwo Jima on February 19, 1945, Mount Suribachi dominated the southern end of the island. Rising about 546 feet above the beaches, the volcano was not just high ground, it was a fortress. Under orders from General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, Japanese engineers had carved tunnels and reinforced bunkers deep inside the mountain months before the invasion. For 3 days before the landing, naval guns shelled Suribachi heavily. Yet, when Marines of the 28th Regiment, 5th Marine Division moved inland on February 20th, machine gun fire erupted from concealed openings. The bombardment had not destroyed the internal tunnel system. Narrow firing slits cut into rock allowed defenders to fire while remaining protected by thick volcanic stone. On February 21st, companies advancing toward the base of Suribachi encountered crossfire from multiple hidden positions. After-action reports describe riflemen pinned down by fire from caves that were almost invisible from a distance. Standard tank shells blasted visible openings, but the defenders often survived inside deeper chambers. Minutes after a position seemed silent, gunfire reopened from a nearby aperture connected by tunnel. The famous flag raising on February 23rd marked the capture of the summit, but it did not mean the mountain was secure. Japanese troops continued to fight from interior tunnels and from hidden exits on the slopes. Marines reported that enemy soldiers would fire from one opening, then disappear underground and reappear behind advancing units. One documented incident occurred on February 24th along the northern slope. A Marine platoon attempting to clear a cluster of caves was forced back when machine guns reopened fire from a previously shelled position. Engineers had believed the bunker destroyed earlier in the day. Instead, defenders had simply withdrawn through a connecting tunnel and waited. To deal with these reopening positions, flamethrower teams and flame-equipped tanks were brought closer to the base of Suribachi. Although the steep slopes limited tank movement higher up, flame tanks supported clearing operations around the lower approaches. Modified M4 Sherman tanks advanced cautiously across volcanic ash, protected by riflemen and machine gun teams. In one engagement near the southern base on February 25th, a reinforced cave entrance resisted repeated rifle grenade attacks. A flamethrower tank positioned itself within range and discharged flame directly into the narrow opening. Observers reported smoke and debris blowing back from the cave, followed by silence. Infantry moved forward and sealed the entrance with demolition charges to prevent reoccupation. Portable flamethrower teams also played a critical role higher on the slopes where tanks could not climb. Marines carrying M2 flamethrowers approached cave mouths under covering fire. In several recorded accounts, once flame was introduced into a tunnel entrance, defenders attempted to escape through alternate exits. Waiting Marines engaged them as they emerged. The tunnel network inside Suribachi was complex. Some corridors ran horizontally through the mountain, connecting artillery positions and observation posts. Others descended deeper into the rock. Engineers clearing the area reported finding steel doors and reinforced chambers that had survived days of bombardment. The design allowed defenders to conserve strength and reopen fire after shelling stopped. Japanese resistance on Suribachi continued for several days after the summit was taken. Small groups emerged at night to attack Marine positions. On February 26th and 27th, Additional clearing operations were conducted to eliminate remaining pockets. Flame was used repeatedly to deny access to tunnels that could not be fully explored safely. The experience on Mount Suribachi demonstrated how tunnel warfare allowed defenders to survive overwhelming firepower and reopen combat at unexpected moments. Naval shells shattered surface rock, but they rarely collapsed the deeper passages. Infantry assaults alone were not enough to prevent re-emergence. By combining riflemen, engineers, and flame systems, Marines gradually sealed the tunnel network. Positions that had reopened fire after bombardment were burned out or permanently closed. The mountain that dominated the southern end of Iwo Jima was secured not in a single dramatic moment, but through repeated close-range assaults against hidden underground defenses. Mount Suribachi showed clearly that fortified tunnels could survive massive shelling. It was only when flame entered those enclosed spaces that many hidden positions were finally neutralized. Sugarloaf Hill, Okinawa, the ridge that cost hundreds of Marines before flamethrower tanks cleared the caves. In May 1945, one small rise of ground became one of the bloodiest points of the battle for Okinawa. Sugarloaf Hill was part of the Shuri Line, the main defensive belt commanded by General Mitsuru Ushijima. The hill itself was not tall, but it sat within a triangle of mutually supporting positions that included Half Moon Hill and Horseshoe Ridge. Together, they created interlocking fields of fire that stalled the advance of the 6th Marine Division. On May 12, 1945, Marines began assaults against Sugarloaf Hill. Units from the 22nd and 29th Marine Regiments advanced across open ground under intense mortar and machine gun fire. Japanese defenders occupied limestone caves reinforced with concrete and steel. Artillery struck the ridge repeatedly, but when bombardment lifted, hidden guns reopened fire. By May 14th, the 29th Marines had already suffered severe casualties. One battalion reported losing a large portion of its officers in just days of fighting. Marines who reached the crest often found themselves under fire from reverse slope positions invisible from below. At night, Japanese troops launched counterattacks through concealed tunnels and communication trenches. Flamethrower tanks from the 713th Tank Battalion and Marine armored units were brought forward to support clearing operations. Moving tanks on Okinawa was difficult. Heavy rain had turned the terrain into mud. Narrow approaches forced vehicles into predictable paths. Anti-tank guns were concealed in caves and on reverse slopes overlooking likely routes. On May 16th, during one renewed assault, infantry advanced behind supporting armor toward cave complexes on the western face of Sugarloaf Hill. Standard, high-explosive shells had failed to silence several key bunkers the previous day. A flame-equipped Sherman moved into position under small arms fire. When it discharged flame directly into a cave mouth, observers reported smoke and debris blasting outward. Fire from that position stopped immediately. In another engagement on May 18th, Marines attempting to secure the crest were halted by a machine gun nest that had survived artillery strikes. Engineers could not approach due to crossfire from adjacent caves. A flamethrower tank advanced to short range and delivered multiple bursts into the firing slit. According to after-action summaries, the bunker ceased firing, allowing infantry to move forward and consolidate their position. The cost of capturing Sugarloaf Hill was extreme. Between May 12th and May 18th, the 6th Marine Division suffered thousands of casualties in that sector alone. Some companies were reduced to half strength within days. Marine accounts describe repeated advances up the slope, only to be driven back by fire from hidden positions that artillery could not fully destroy. Japanese defenders used a network of caves and trenches to shift positions. Even after flame attacks, some troops escaped through secondary exits and attempted to re-engage. Engineers followed flame tanks to seal entrances with demolition charges. This methodical process was necessary to prevent reoccupation of cleared caves. Flame tanks were not invulnerable. During the fighting around Sugarloaf, several tanks were hit by anti-tank fire or immobilized in mud. Infantry had to protect them from close-range attacks. Japanese soldiers attempted to approach damaged vehicles with explosives. The close coordination between riflemen and armor was critical to keeping the flame systems operational. By May 18th, after days of intense combat, Marines finally secured Sugarloaf Hill. The combination of artillery, infantry assault, engineers, and flamethrower tanks gradually dismantled the defensive network. Positions that had survived repeated bombardment were neutralized when flame entered enclosed caves. The battle for Sugarloaf Hill illustrates why flamethrower tanks became central to clearing fortified ridges on Okinawa. Artillery alone could not collapse deep limestone caves. Infantry assaults without armored support resulted in heavy losses. Flame, delivered at close range, disrupted defenders inside reinforced chambers and reduced the time required to silence key strongpoints. Sugarloaf Hill was only one ridge within the larger Shuri line, but its capture marked a turning point in that sector. The cost in lives was high. The method of clearing cave defenses was brutal and direct. Yet, in the face of fortified resistance that refused to yield, flame tanks played a decisive role in breaking positions that had withstood everything else. Kakazu Ridge, anti-tank guns, mines, and the flame tanks that broke the Shuri Line defense. On April 1, 1945, United States forces landed on Okinawa in the largest amphibious assault of the Pacific War. At first, resistance seemed light, but by April 6th, as the 96th Infantry Division pushed south, they encountered the first major barrier of the Shuri Line at Kakazu Ridge. This position was part of the defensive system commanded by General Mitsuru Ushijima. Kakazu Ridge was not a simple hill. It was a fortified limestone escarpment filled with caves, tunnels, and reinforced firing positions. Japanese engineers had constructed reverse slope defenses, meaning many guns were hidden on the far side of the ridge where artillery shells could not strike directly. Machine gun nests were cut into rock and concealed with camouflage. Anti-tank guns were positioned to cover narrow approaches. On April 7th, units of the 383rd Infantry Regiment advanced toward the ridge after heavy artillery preparation. When the barrage lifted, Japanese fire erupted from concealed positions. Machine guns and mortars struck the advancing infantry. Tanks supporting the assault moved forward but soon encountered mines buried along likely routes. Several vehicles were disabled before reaching effective range. One after-action report from the 96th Division described an anti-tank gun hidden inside a cave on the reverse slope. The gun fired through a narrow opening, striking American armor that attempted to climb the ridge. Because the position was shielded by rock, artillery could not destroy it easily. Infantry attempts to approach were driven back by overlapping fire from adjacent caves. Between April 7th and April 9th, the fighting for Kakazu Ridge intensified. American forces launched repeated assaults but failed to secure the position. Casualties mounted. Units were forced to withdraw and reorganize. The defensive system allowed Japanese troops to shift through tunnels and reopen fire even after specific bunkers were targeted. Flamethrower tanks were brought forward as part of renewed efforts to break the ridge. These were modified M4 Sherman tanks, equipped with flame projection systems. Their role was not to duel artillery, but to neutralize cave entrances that resisted conventional shell fire. On April 12th, during another coordinated assault, infantry identified several key cave openings that controlled the central slope of Kakazu Ridge. Standard tank shells had failed to silence them permanently. A flame-equipped Sherman advanced under covering fire and discharged flame directly into one of the openings. Observers reported heavy smoke and debris, followed by silence from that position. Engineers moved in shortly after to seal the entrance with explosives. In another engagement near the eastern sector of the ridge, a concealed machine gun nest halted an infantry company attempting to advance along a narrow path. The bunker was partially shielded by limestone rock. A flame tank maneuvered into range despite mortar fire and projected flame into the recessed firing port. After the discharge, the machine gun stopped firing, allowing the infantry to move forward. Japanese defenders attempted to counter these flame assaults. Anti-tank guns remained active on the reverse slope. Mines continued to threaten advancing armor. In some cases, tanks were immobilized and became immediate targets. Infantry protection was critical to prevent close-range attacks by defenders carrying explosive charges. Despite heavy resistance, sustained coordination between infantry, engineers, artillery, and flame tanks gradually weakened the Kakuzu Ridge defenses. Positions that had survived artillery bombardment were neutralized when flame entered the confined spaces of caves and tunnels. By mid-April, after days of intense combat, the ridge was finally secured. The breakthrough at Kakuzu Ridge exposed further layers of the Shuri line, but demonstrated that fortified reverse slope defenses could be penetrated with combined arms tactics that included flame tanks. The battle for Kakuzu Ridge showed clearly why conventional assaults alone were not enough. Anti-tank guns, mines, and concealed caves created a defensive network built to absorb bombardment. It required direct penetration of enclosed positions to silence key strongpoints. Flame tanks did not remove the danger, but in several documented engagements they provided the means to break cave defenses that had stalled the advance of entire regiments. Saipan, 1944. The first field modified Sherman flamethrowers that shocked Japanese cave defenders. On June 15, 1944, United States Marines landed on Saipan in one of the most violent assaults of the Pacific War. The island was defended by Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito, who commanded more than 20,000 Japanese troops supported by artillery and fortified cave systems. Unlike earlier island battles, Saipan's limestone terrain allowed defenders to build deep chambers that survived intense naval bombardment. Marines from the 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions pushed inland under heavy fire within hours of landing. Japanese machine guns hidden inside caves along ridge lines fired through narrow slits that were nearly invisible from a distance. Artillery struck these areas repeatedly, yet once the shelling lifted, gunfire resumed. Infantry units attempting to climb slopes toward Mount Tapochau faced crossfire from multiple concealed openings. On June 16th and 17th, as fighting intensified north of the beaches, Marine commanders realized that portable flamethrowers were not enough. Operators carrying M2 units had to approach within short range and were exposed to rifle and mortar fire. Casualties among these teams mounted quickly. Officers in the 2nd Marine Tank Battalion began discussing ways to provide armored flame support. Seabees from the 117th Naval Construction Battalion responded. Working alongside Marine tank crews, they modified M3 Stuart light tanks by removing the main gun and installing a flame projector system. The improvised design became known as the CBH-1. Fuel tanks and pressurized lines were mounted inside the hull, allowing the tank to project flame while offering greater protection to the crew than a backpack unit could provide. By June 23rd, these modified tanks were deployed in combat near Mount Tapochau. That day, Marines advancing against a cluster of reinforced caves were stalled for hours. Artillery fire had damaged the exterior rock but failed to silence the machine guns inside. According to reports from the 4th Marine Division, a flame tank moved into position under covering rifle fire and discharged flame directly into one cave entrance. Smoke and debris poured outward, and resistance from that opening stopped. Infantry secured the position soon after. Fighting near the town of Garapan later in June provided another example. Japanese troops used interconnected caves to shift between firing points, frustrating repeated infantry assaults. On June 28th, after grenades and demolition charges failed to clear a specific cave complex, a CBH-1 tank approached within range and projected sustained flame into a concealed aperture. Witness accounts noted that defenders attempted to escape through secondary exits but were met by Marine riflemen positioned nearby. The psychological shock was immediate. Japanese troops had prepared for artillery and rifle fire, but flame entering enclosed chambers altered the conditions inside the caves. Survivors later described suffocating smoke and intense heat that forced rapid decisions to retreat or fight in extreme conditions. On July 7th, General Saito launched a large-scale counterattack in what became one of the largest banzai charges of the Pacific War. Although flame tanks were not central to repelling that assault, they continued to play a role in clearing remaining cave positions in the days that followed. Organized resistance on Saipan ended by July 9, 1944. The success of the CBH-1 conversions demonstrated that armored flame systems could neutralize fortified caves more effectively than repeated infantry assaults alone. Lessons from Saipan influenced further development of flamethrower tanks based on the more heavily armored M4 Sherman chassis. Engineers refined fuel systems, improved range, and strengthened internal components. Saipan marked a turning point in Pacific warfare. It was here, in June and July 1944, that improvised armored flamethrowers first proved their value against entrenched cave defenses. The experience showed that bombardment alone could not eliminate deeply protected positions. By combining armor, infantry, engineers, and flame projection, United States forces found a method to break fortified cave networks that had previously resisted every conventional approach. Okinawa cave counterattacks, when Japanese soldiers tried to destroy flame tanks at close range. When United States forces landed on Okinawa on April 1, 1945, they expected fierce resistance. What they encountered in the weeks that followed was a deeply layered defensive system centered on caves and reverse slope positions. General Mitsuru Ushijima and his staff had prepared the Shuri line to absorb bombardment and force attackers into close combat. As flamethrower tanks were introduced to clear these caves, Japanese defenders responded with direct and dangerous counterattacks. By mid-April, American units advancing toward Kakuzu Ridge and later Sugarloaf Hill faced intense fire from concealed limestone caves. Flame-equipped Sherman tanks from Army and Marine armored units were assigned to assist infantry in clearing these positions. Their role was clear: move close, project flame into cave mouths, and withdraw while engineers sealed entrances. Japanese soldiers quickly recognized the threat. On April 19th, during renewed assaults against the Shuri line, a flame tank supporting infantry near Kakuzu Ridge advanced toward a cave complex that had stalled the 96th Infantry Division days earlier. As the tank discharged flame into the opening, rifle fire and mortar rounds intensified. According to division reports, Japanese defenders attempted to approach the vehicle from a concealed trench line on its flank. Infantry screening the tank engaged them at short range, preventing a direct attack on the hull. The pattern repeated in May during the battle for Sugarloaf Hill. On May 16, 1945, Marines of the 6th Marine Division advanced behind supporting armor against caves overlooking the ridge. A flame tank moved forward along a muddy slope to target a reinforced position. After it discharged flame, several Japanese soldiers emerged from a secondary exit behind the vehicle. Armed with grenades and explosive charges, they attempted to close the distance. Marine riflemen assigned to protect the tank engaged them in a brief but intense firefight. The attackers were stopped within yards of the vehicle. Japanese doctrine emphasized close-range attacks against armor when possible. Anti-tank guns were hidden in caves to strike vehicles from the front, but when that failed, individual soldiers sometimes attempted to disable tanks manually. On May 24th, near the Shuri Castle area, a flame tank supporting infantry was immobilized after its tracks were damaged by artillery fragments. As the crew attempted to coordinate recovery, small groups of Japanese soldiers moved through communication trenches toward the disabled vehicle. Infantry units quickly formed a defensive perimeter, preventing the attackers from placing explosives against the hull. Mines also played a central role in these countermeasures. Throughout late April and May, flame tanks advancing along narrow roads faced buried anti-tank mines. A disabled vehicle was vulnerable. In several documented cases, infantry reported Japanese soldiers attempting to exploit immobilized tanks by closing in under cover of smoke or darkness. Tank crews understood that once stopped near a cave system, they became high-priority targets. The caves themselves allowed defenders to stage surprise counterattacks. After a flame discharge, infantry often believed the position neutralized. Yet, in some instances, defenders sheltered in deeper chambers emerged through alternate exits once the tank withdrew. This forced repeated clearing operations. Engineers sealed entrances with demolition charges to prevent reoccupation. The close-range nature of these engagements increased psychological strain on both sides. Flame entering a cave created intense heat and smoke. For defenders, escape often meant running into waiting rifle fire. For tank crews, every approach toward a cave carried the risk of anti-tank fire or sudden assault from concealed trenches. By June 1945, as American forces pressed deeper into southern Okinawa, coordinated assaults between infantry, engineers, and flame tanks became routine. Japanese counterattacks did not stop entirely, but their ability to destroy flame tanks at close range diminished as defensive lines collapsed. The Shuri line eventually fell, and organized resistance began to fragment. The fighting on Okinawa shows that flamethrower tanks were not uncontested weapons. Japanese soldiers actively sought to destroy them through anti-tank guns, mines, and close-range assaults. Infantry protection and careful coordination were essential for survival. In the confined world of limestone caves and muddy ridges, every flame attack risked a counterstrike. Okinawa's cave counterattacks reveal the dangerous balance of this form of warfare. Flame tanks could break fortified positions, but only if they survived long enough to reach them. Each approach toward a cave was a contest of speed, coordination, and nerve, fought at distances measured in meters under constant threat from hidden defenders.